Paris, because she'd never been there, Dublin, but I used to live in Ireland. So we went
it?
Paris, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day for Dublin, and then we went to Marrakesh in April. Then we went to Barbados. No, went to Berlin in May.
Yeah, Berlin's nice. I've been
Berlin Carnival. You've been to Berlin Carnival?
Not the Carnival though, but I went
Mate,
Berlin, yeah.
Berlin Carnival.
Is it?
It's
Is it
legit.
one?
Like, when I heard Trini's talking to me about Berlin Carnival, I knew it was certified.
I know they have an Afro one there as well, but
It's all around the same period, the carnival cultures.
For real?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Been 2 years running. I'm going again this year. It's cheap.
Amazing. I'm definitely going to pop down the list, man.
Yeah, definitely.
My boys have been slacking recently in terms of like our holidays and stuff, but everyone's kind of like settling down, having
and
kids
the weather's
and
pretty decent. Last 2 years, weather's been banging.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we went there, and then we went to Barbados for carnival,
Yeah.
for crop over. Then I went to Jamaica with my brother, and then I went to LA to see her, and then Vegas with my boys.
Oh, amazing.
But then I'm meeting her in New York after Kenya.
Yeah.
Where she's speaking at an event. And then...
Is she like a motivational speaker?
So, no, she's a celebrity personal trainer in LA.
Amazing.
And then she's got her own company that gets visas for like artistic professionals and stuff like that. So, yeah, I should take this off in it, the buzz.
No worries. Well, hey good people, and welcome once again to Let's Do Humans. Today I have a special guest here, and we're going to be touching on some of the work that he does in the community, especially based around sort of like South London, and the wonderful work that he does with the kids around there. And we're going to talk a bit more about his career, his upbringing, and the future of his organization, which he currently runs with several business partners. So enough of my introduction. Sayce, can you introduce yourself and what is it that you do?
So, full name is Sayce Holmes-Lewis.
Yeah.
I run a company called Mentivity, which mentors young people through positive activities, sports and education.
Amazing.
So more of an emphasis on informal education, really. So, so we started off in East London, in Peckham. And, yeah, I've been doing that for the last 2 years and 8 months.
Amazing.
In terms of Mentivity. But I've been working with young people since the age of 18. So I'll be 36 in November. So it's 18 years I've been working with young people.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's my way of giving back to the community that served me so well, and just helping to guide the next generation.
But what is your motivation behind it? What was the purpose for setting up? Was it like sort of a singular event, or was it something that you had long-term plan to take part in?
To be honest, it's my life. It's my whole life.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I had a troubled childhood between the ages of 8 and 14, which coincided with my dad leaving the household. I'm the oldest of, was the oldest of 4 at the time, and it just put us in a lot of difficulty. Me, I was very confused, and you know, your dad is like your role model, your first role model, your first Superman, you know,
Most
like
definitely,
superhero. And he left, and I was lost. I was just like blown in the wind, pretty much, and you know, I got mixed up in the wrong, you know, kind of situations and crowds from between 8 and 14, and just literally, I just really struggled. You know, if it wasn't for football and coming across a really prominent role model at the age of 14, probably wouldn't be doing the things that I've been doing, you know, over the course of my life. But so yeah, that was kind of the inspiration. But I've always, you know, enjoyed giving back to young people. Come from a very giving family, and something that, you know, that my mum kind of models in terms of giving to people and always being there for people. So this is kind of an extension of my family and kind of the experiences that I had. And it's just giving that support to young people.
That's absolutely amazing. You've already touched on something that I'd already sort of like pre-planned to talk to you about, and that's in regards to what happens to the home when a father leaves and the impact that has on a child. Yeah. And you've already sort of admitted to yourself that when your dad did leave, it had an impact on your upbringing and what is kind of like what part took after your father left the house. So what's the difference between having a father in the house and not having a father in the house? And how does that impact you? Or what do you think that impact has on other children who don't have their fathers in their lives?
I think, speaking from my personal experience, it derailed me and it unsettled me massively. And for a number of years, I blamed my mum for him leaving the household because he left pretty much unannounced. When he left, I was just very confused. So I was trying to, you know, sift through that confusion to find out why he'd actually left. And I had this kind of image of my father from a young age that, you know, he was, you know, the greatest man alive. He could do no wrong. But over time, I found out that he wasn't what he presented. And that was kind of the real struggle for me, was actually kind of coming to terms with who he actually was, which was that he wasn't a great father. And he didn't do what he needed to do in terms of his children. He didn't serve, you know, my mum in the way that he should have as a man. And unfortunately, you know, because of that and him leaving, you know, after a while and realizing who he was, our relationship became quite estranged.
Yeah.
So, you know, I still had him around me, and, you know, he still had us around, but it wasn't really, and he wasn't really investing any time in us. Like, it was like he was just happy to have his tokenistic children
Most of it,
there.
yeah.
So for me, it caused me severe issues, you know. And if it wasn't for, you know, the role model I spoke about, was a guy called Abdullah Ben Kamal,
Yeah.
who set up a football club because his young brothers, you know, were at risk of kind of gang culture and kind of gang conscription. So he didn't want his brothers to follow his kind of, you know, lead in what he was kind of living and what he was going. So he set up the football to get a lot of young boys of the Glebe estate, you know, off the streets. And from there, he went to Red Lion, and that's where I came across him, based in Surrey Keys. And literally, the guy just changed my life, you know, like through football, which was always my passion from a young age, you know, from 8, 9. You know,
was it like the football was giving you like a form of discipline or a purpose within the community? You had something that you was doing that was keeping you away from what would else sidetrack you?
Yeah, it was something tangible for me. It's something that was achievable, that I could go and play, enjoy. I loved the game, and I loved to learn. And when I went and played football, it was like nothing else mattered. I could be angry, I could be upset at my dad, whoever, upset at the world. When I go and play football on that pitch, might still be a bit, you know, angry and upset.
But you're venting in a different way, though. Yeah,
probably against the referees.
Yeah,
pretty much,
most definitely.
I didn't like authority, you know. So yeah, for me, it was key that I found something positive to focus on, you know. And even though it was a sport, it was a positive activity for me.
Most definitely.
And I learned a lot informally, you know, how to be a leader over time, and how to talk to people, how to give information, you know, and take information and execute that.
Well, so this is all learned from playing football and partaking in the team sport.
I learned a lot, you know, like growing up, you know, the person I first saw playing football was visible to me, and you know, forever stick in my memory and be my favourite player was Ian Wright. And coming across him, I found out that my birthday was the same as him, and I actually wanted to be him, you know. I wanted to be a striker, score goals. I enjoyed doing that. So, you know. So yes, I am an Arsenal fan. Before you are.
Well, likewise, and funny enough, you mentioned Ian Wright, because Ian Wright is actually the reason why I started supporting Arsenal.
Right.
Because I grew up in Sweden, and being one of the only, I was the only black kid in my school at the time, in primary school, and watching the Premier League, which everyone used to watch at the time, it was either that or Italian football. I found most of the players to be very boring in terms of like their mannerism and the way they carried themselves. They didn't have the same swagger that I was accustomed to within my culture. So when Ian Wright came through, I was like, boy, that's one of ours. Do you know what I mean? And it was undeniably one of ours. And that's how I ended up supporting Arsenal as well. So I'm a Gooner fan. And,
Exactly, precisely that. And literally, like, he encapsulated the whole kind of energy of playing professional football for me. He was just so vibrant. He had such a great, you know, charisma, like, and that's what I loved, because he came into a room and came into the pitch, you knew he was there. And he was doing something a lot different to the strikers at that time. And although he didn't get that recognition from England, like, for me, he was one of England's best strikers. He was better than a lot of people at that time, scoring goals that no one was scoring, you know. The types of goals he was scoring, you weren't seeing. And for me, he was an inspiration for me, and he was the reason why I wanted to become a professional football player at the age of 8, 9. Saw him first at Crystal Palace, but you know, literally just followed him to Arsenal and just been an Arsenal fan ever since. But you know, he served as, you know, massive inspiration over the course of my lifetime, even to this day. You know, just watching him, how he is and how he interacts with people. You know, there's a lot of love to give, smiling and, you know, kind of reminiscent of how I am with people in my community. So I've learned a lot through him. And, you know, going back to your question about, you know, the impacts of dads leaving for other children, you know, again, it's just really unsettling, and it leaves, you know, young people, not just, you know, young black males, but young people wondering why their dads left, if they're not giving them, you know, what they need after they've left their household. And unfortunately, my dad didn't do that. He didn't support us in the way that he should. You know, it was always a struggle just to get things from him, you know, things that we needed, you know, football boots and basic clothes. It was always a struggle, and it was always like an excuse, you know, as to why he couldn't do it, or he wouldn't even respond like, oh, I see what I can do, and then never get back to us. So, you know, for me, he taught me how not to be a father in that respect, and, you know, how not to be a man in certain areas. I mean, he's very, very talented. He's a musician. He had his own band from a young age, and, you know, he was excellent at carpentry. You know, he could build anything. Like, he was just fantastic at that stuff. So I learned some of those things from him. But in terms of being a father myself now, like, I just wanted to be the total opposite of
Yeah,
what he was.
most definitely.
And just be totally involved, you know, with my...
That plays a major part in what's happening in our communities nowadays, which I'm sure you're well aware of. Yeah,
huge. I mean,
but how is the community receiving the project at the moment in terms of like the work that you're doing within South London?
So, you know, with Mentivity, it's been a blessing, to be honest, because I already had a great kind of network of contacts in Southwark. Because of the work I did, I worked for Southwark Council for Southwark Community Games, which was a year-round sports program. So I was one of the community sports head coaches. So we go to housing estates and schools, deliver like 5-hour offer, and go into housing estates in the evening. Had like an evening program in the areas of War from Borough and Bankside, but also the other community council areas. But those were my two areas. So in terms of the schools networks and the people that I worked with, because I was so professional in my approach to my work and stuff, and
kept the relationships.
You know, so literally, when I went out on my own, you know, a lot of people that knew me from my work with Southwark kind of knew, right, oh, Sayce is doing something himself.
Yeah.
So they were kind of, you know, receptive to doing something with me. But, you know, it was
is this the authorities or the locals?
It was pretty much the staff at the school, pretty much. I haven't really got much support from you know, local government or anything like that. You know, no funding for Mentivity. We're a limited company, so we don't depend on government.
So it's all self-funded?
Pretty much. So we go to schools. I set up using my redundancy money after my second redundancy, and I just decided, this is the time. You know, I had enough knowledge and, you know, know-how, and I just finished university the year before. So I studied youth and community work with sports development. So I had a good understanding now of what my offer was on paper, which was important. And before, I couldn't really articulate what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's always an issue, isn't it?
Yeah. So through the experience that I gained, you know, since the age of 18, working in pupil referral units, you know, mainstream schools, community sports coaches for different, you know, organisations, I just realised that, right, this is my offer and this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to put down on paper. And then it's just literally snowballed ever since. It's just gathered momentum.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's been received, you know, amazingly well. But it's because it's a service that's centred for young people and it's driven by what young people need. It's not adults forcing their agenda on young people, saying, I think you should do this or you should do that. No, I'm not trying to impart.
They're more inclined to take part in it if it's something that they genuinely want to do and take part. You can't sort of force them to do something.
It's voluntary engagement, and that's one of the first principles of youth work, is that young people have to want to do something and they want to effect positive change within themselves. That has to come from within. All you're doing is facilitating that and giving them, you know, little bits of motivation, you know, extrinsically from my point of view. So that's what's key for us.
It's interesting you say that. So in terms of like the young people, so the ones that are kind of caught up in the violent, uprising violence that's going on, what is it that they want? Like, why are they so feeling disfranchised and they partake in all of these supposed criminal activities? Like, what?
It's a multifaceted. You can't just pinpoint and say it's this, it's this. First and foremost is that, you know, I'd hate to say it, deprivation, but there is a lack of financial resources.
Poverty is a big factor when it comes to like...
So, you know, and like you said, you mentioned before about, you know, single parent households, even when you have your mum and dad at home, they're having to work now. Whereas back in the day, when I was young, one of the parents could work and you could survive on that wage. Now that's impossible. It's not going to happen. So you've got basically absent parents, you know, even though their children live with them, you know, they might be working different shifts, whatever it may be. Children are pretty much raising themselves, watching a lot of social media. And, you know, with the influence that social media has for young people with developing minds, that is a major issue. But, you know, for a lot of young people that are involved in, you know, criminal activity or gang culture, it's because they want to feel accepted by someone in something. And, you know, again, some of them don't realize that, right, if I go into this, then I'm going to kind of mess up my life. It's the excitement.
They don't see the long term, do they? It's always sort of like this short term engagement.
But what child does?
No one does, yeah.
There's a lot of adults that don't see the long term, you know, impact of things like that. But, you know, a lot of them are confused as to, you know, where they are in life, and it just seems like a family. You know, it's reminiscent of a family. When you go into a gang, everyone presents that they're looking after each other, but when, you know, it gets on top, then that's when you realise who is actually your real friend. So that's an issue for a lot of young people. It is acceptance. It is feeling good about themselves and being accepted by their peers and society as a whole. However, once you get into that lifestyle, you start isolating yourself from certain areas. You know, you can't go to certain areas.
Yeah,
you can't speak to certain people that may be your friends. And you know, with what's going on at the moment, a lot of these guys that are, you know, beefing each other, they went to school together. They know each other, but because of their postcode wars, which, you know, I mentioned before,
They then having to sort of like divide amongst themselves.
Yeah, pretty much, and they're isolating themselves, and then it becomes then borders on a mental health issue, because then you are restricted in terms of what you can do.
Yeah.
It's like me and you being stuck in this room for 2 months.
Yeah.
One of us will lose our mind.
Most
if
definitely.
not both.
Yeah.
So imagine.
I'm definitely going first.
But you know, essentially, you're staying in the same area, doing the same things. It's going to have an effect on you, like, mentally. So, you know, a lot of this is bordering on mental health as well.
I mean, the mental side must be so significant, but if you really look into it, they're going through what soldiers are going through pretty much.
Yeah.
There's a war out there where they're seeing their friends dying right in front of them, like being butchered and stabbed up. And it's quite horrific when you look at it in depth.
It is.
And to think that it's children that are experiencing this, imagine adults in war, we take care of them when they get back.
Right.
We realize that they have mental issues going on, and it's at a wide scale. So how can we better take care of these kids' mental state?
More services like Mentivity, and I think everyone kind of working towards the same kind of ideals and you know, same outcomes pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, what I feel that we've had now over the last few years is that we have got a lot of organizations that are working independently rather than coming together. If you come together, you can achieve greater, you know, synergy.
Yeah, most definitely.
And greater impact. But everyone seems to be trying to do their own thing and try to prove to everybody that they're the best in their field. We're different, you know. We try to work with as many organizations as possible that are going to kind of enhance our offer for young people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not fussed if another person set up another, you know, Mentivity.
So the more the better.
Yeah, it'd be great. Like, to be honest, there's enough schools in London for everyone to be okay, you know. Like, it's not about greed. It's not about money for me. Like, yes, I want to live. I want to be able to enjoy myself. But essentially, it's all about providing employment for people like myself in the community to, you know, giving them that platform to be able to impact, you know, 5-10 people over the course.
But why is there a breakdown in support between the government and organisations like yourself? Because ideally, if they're seeing the work you're doing and the impact it's having, and there is results to show for it, why are they not supporting it? Is there a case of you not finding the right people to contact, or they're ignoring funding for particular projects like this?
To be honest, it's difficult to say, but, you know, the government, when at times of recession, the first thing to go is always the sports and the arts. And predominantly, those involved in sports and the arts, especially in the areas I'm working in, are, you know, people of colour. And those are the people that end up, you know, suffering because we don't have the financial resources to then continue that elsewhere. A lot of this stuff is funded. And, you know, when young people don't have access to youth services or sports programs or whatever it may be, they're going to turn to the streets. But then you're then policing these same children and criminalising them because they're on the streets because they have nowhere else to go. So for me, the government has created this problem, but we can't be dependent on government. That's why, you know, Mentivity is a limited company. That's why I didn't wait for the charitable. Yeah. Because if I waited for charity, I wouldn't be anywhere. I wouldn't be anywhere. I'm proving to my community that you can do things, mobilise and do this without waiting for others. And for me now, it is about acquiring funding to help us be a bit more kind of, how do I say it, a little bit more secure. Yeah. But I don't want to be dependent on funding. So then if the funding stops, then Mentivity is finished. That's not going to happen to us. Yeah. You know, in terms of my model, what we're trying to do is acquire ambassadors for Mentivity that, you know, really identify with our work. And, you know, hopefully if they're doing great things in their community, like our first ambassador is Javan Wade from, you know, Man Them on the Wall. And he's really...
Oh, what, did he come through your project? Yeah, because I saw pictures of him on your website.
So he's actually related to my business partner, Leon Wright.
Oh, okay,
and
amazing.
Literally, he just really took an interest to it. And he's like, I really like what you guys are doing. If you need help, you know, I'll come and talk or whatever it may be. And it kind of wasn't the right time for us and probably wasn't the right time for him. But he came down to one of our schools at Wharf Academy earlier this year. And you know, after the release of the first Purge movie, and literally was well received. Plus, obviously, his work with Man Them on the Wall and being in EastEnders is quite well
He's
known.
doing quite amazing stuff with Rapman now as well, isn't he, for Shara's story?
Yeah. So again, it's just, you know, we're developing, he's developing, and it's a great partnership at the moment. So, you know, he's on board. But what we're trying to do is get more of those ambassadors and people that have come through, you know, the work that I've been involved in, to say, right, if you're doing quite well and you're financially all right, and you can offset a little bit of money here to Mentivity, which will offset your taxes, then that will help us be a little bit more self-sufficient. And if we can get a yearly pledge, then we know, right, we've got this 20 grand coming in from there, 10 grand coming from there. So it's actually then the community that's actually mobilizing to make sure that this service doesn't go away. And that's what, you know, my model of approach for Mentivity. Because
and how do you measure your impact at the moment? So, because obviously, if there's any funders out there who would be interested, how would they know that the work you're doing and the service you're providing is having an impact in the community?
So we do it a number of ways. We do case studies, which are, you know, the most common way within our field of work. But we also use the behavior logs at the beginning of the program, and we also do a questionnaire at the beginning. And from the behavior logs and the attendance, we can kind of gauge whether they're engaging a little bit more within the school systems, whether they're getting a lot less or more behavior points. So we can always look at this every so often and say, right, you know what, mate, you're messing up. You got sent out here. You're back chatting here.
You're detention here and there.
But then and then through that, what we do on a weekly session. So we either do group work, which we call conversation-based learning, which is learning informally, so informal education, or we do one-to-one sessions. So in the one-to-one sessions, it's literally the first question is what's gone well for you this week. The next one is what hasn't gone so well for you this week.
So they're kind of self-assessing them.
So not what's gone wrong, it's what's not gone so well for you. So trying to keep it positive, and right, what are your targets? How can you be better this next week? And literally, they'll reel off the, you know, the positive stuff, and they were talking about, you know, right, I got sent out of class, I'm having trouble with this teacher, whatever it may be. And then that's when we impart our knowledge and say, right, it's about managing relations. Instead of being defiant in class and back chatting to teachers, when you go in after a weekend, your first class, go in and say hi to a teacher. Say, how was your weekend? And they're gonna be like, but they're gonna respond.
You see the change in vibe, isn't it?
But they're gonna say, well, hey, I had a good weekend. How was yours? And then you speak, and it's about building relations. And for me, that's like based on my own experiences, that I struggled in school with some teachers. But when I went to university, I was a lot older. I was really kind of talking to a lot of my tutors, building friendships with them and relations with them, because ultimately they're marking your So when they're like, oh so he's pretty cool. So it's about playing the games, about being smart and using your brain, and that's what we try to tell the young people and get them to understand that you know, this is reflective of what society is. You know, it's just a micro community in a secondary school or primary school, but in the wider world, you're going to come across people you don't like. What are you going to do? Scream and shout at them? Walk out of class? What are you going to do? You're going to walk out of work? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to have to work through it. So you may as well get into it now and start learning how to kind of manage yourself and manage relationships with people. And that's very, very important. So again, it's more informal, it's more holistic kind of aspect of
I think when working with younger children, it's best to keep it informal, because that's the best way that they'll be receptive to you. Because if you're coming in there with a full dossier and trying to break down things in the formal strategy, it's not really going to work. You need to meet them at their level, pretty much.
Precisely, and that is a main principle of youth work. But it's also then building on that base of knowledge. It's saying to them that, right, what you're doing through Mentivity is that you're learning, you're being open and receptive to the learning process, rather than having a fixed mindset. You've got a growth mindset, saying, right, I'm not going to keep banging my head against a brick wall and hoping for a different, you know, outcome. It's going to hurt every time. So what can I do to get around this obstacle? And again, it's just getting them to think outside the box and equipping them with the tools to succeed, you know, in, you know, basic elements of life. And once you experience success in those basic elements, then you can build on that success, because success is addictive. Everyone knows you achieve that, right, what's next? All right, cool, what's next? And that's what we're trying to get young people to understand, is that you need to keep setting continual targets, experience success, because a lot of them don't experience any success. Everything is failure. They go home, they're a failure. They go to school, they're a failure. Society tells them they're a failure. They go on social media, oh, look, you're dead, your trainers are dead, you're a failure. So
that constant reaffirmation that you're a failure, it has a detrimental effect on them.
I believe that, you know, young people are less resilient than, you know, people from my my childhood, and that's because we were sheltered from certain things,
Yeah.
and we were able to build that resilience.
Yeah, most definitely.
Whereas young people now, they're just like, right,
Yeah.
I've got to keep doing this. I've got to keep, like, it's very, very hard. So yeah, it's important for them to continue to learn, but learn in a sheltered manner, rather than learning in an open forum. And that's what I feel that they're doing now.
Yeah.
And you know, they make one mistake, like you can end up dying. You know, you can.
That's the thing. Turn the wrong corner, and then pretty much that's it.
Yeah, we used to have fights, and you fight someone, you see the next week, like, oh, you remember that fight?
Yeah,
last week? Yeah, it was cool.
Especially the playground runs back in the day.
And then you're friends. You end up being friends, but now
Yeah.
they're stabbing people and they're dying, and that's that. You know, and people don't fight anymore.
But at what point did it turn so extreme, though? Because I remember in secondary school, you have a one-on-one with someone, and then the next day you're on the dinner line together, and everything's completely cool, like you were blessed again. But now it's gone to the extreme whereby the moment you start a fight, it just doesn't stop, and then it continues, and it's now becoming like a generational thing.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone's carrying on the beef of their predecessors, and it's just ridiculous. It's like a never-ending cycle, pretty much. So where did it turn so ugly? Like,
to be honest, I think it was always going to be something that developed. I mean, this was happening when I was young. People were being stabbed.
Yeah, definitely.
People were dying. People were getting shot. We just didn't have, you know, the mass media that we do now. You know, and everyone can be a reporter nowadays. You know, you know, Snapchat, like, oh, look at this fight. You know, World Star and all that stuff. So
it makes it seem worse. Yeah.
Again, it's, you know, we're in the YouTube age now where everything is documented, and you know, like, young people are now, rather than having beef and only a few people knowing about it, everyone knows about it. So you're trying to save face. You're trying to be like, you know what, I'm about this life. But you know, in reality, you're not. A lot of these young people, you know, we call them paper gangsters. Like, when it rains, you guys are gonna just, you know, fall apart. Like, you're pretending to be somebody that you're not, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses because that's what children do. And
so they're succumbing to the pressure of their surroundings, and then it's forcing them to do stuff that naturally is not in them to do anyway.
Precisely. So you know, you walk with a knife and you do it for protection, which a lot of young people do. And then you get into a situation and you bring out that knife, and before you realize subconsciously you've done something, you stabbed someone, you're like, oh, and that's it, and then you're in it now. Do you know what I mean? There's no real turning back from that, because you've hurt another human being who's now, if they don't survive, they're going to be after you. And that's the problem, is that, you know, young people are not understanding that the little actions that they're making, decisions that they're making, are becoming bigger and bigger decisions down the line. And it becomes to a point where they can't get out of it. And then when you talk about grooming and, you know, these elders and bringing them into, you know, the whole gang lifestyle, like giving them money and, oh, I'm going to buy you food.
So like manipulating them to do their work for them,
Yeah, because they know that they can't, you know, go to prison like them. You know, they'll just get slapped on the wrist pretty much. And that's what the problem is. But because we're such a capitalist society, you know, it's driven by money. This is where we've gone so far away from our principles. Going back to the family unit, like, everyone's out, everyone's doing their thing independently. You have dinner and someone's in their room, someone's eating at the table. You know, when I was growing up, dinner time was dinner time.
You sit together,
the family, oh, how was your day? There
was discipline and structure to it, and I think that's what people forget the importance of, because that discipline and structure is sort of like the basics of having dinner together. It's actually life lessons that you take on, in the outside world as well. So it teaches you something that it's kind of being lost with all the young people at the moment. Yeah.
But it's not, you know, young people are growing up in a world that was created by the adults before them. So they can't be blamed for everything that's going on in society. Yes, they can be held accountable for their actions. If they're stabbing and shooting people, I get that. However, some of these young people are funneled into this lifestyle because of what's happened before them. You spoke about parents, and I spoke to someone earlier, a teacher earlier. He said, you know what, I just think it's not just the parents, but we've gone so far away. And this is a white teacher. He said, I think that the black community have gone so far away from their principles in terms of discipline and respect, that this is why you're having a lot of these issues now. And I was like, look, you're spot on. I couldn't even...
It's funny you said you had a conversation with a white person, because I've had a similar conversation, and they were telling me about the Windrush Generation. When they first came over, they said the family was very close knit, and they were the model for what a good family was. They had good moral character, like the way they were dressed, the way they carried themselves, the way the family unit was. And this gentleman in particular was telling me that when that family unit broke down, we went from being the model of family to, no, don't be like them. They're a complete disaster. Look what's happening to their culture. Look what's happening to their people. And when you look into it, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly where this moment happened. But a lot of my research have taken me into the whole welfare system and how we allowed the welfare system to become the husband and the dad of the family, and then now men are becoming sort of like
obsolete.
They're becoming obsolete. So you don't need a man around in order to run the family in essence. And at the same time, the government is now saying we're going to take care of your family, but the government is not going to come into your household and discipline your child. The government is not going to come into your household whilst you're at work and keep an eye out on your child and preventing them from stepping out into the estate and getting involved with the wrong people. So it's like there's a chain of things, and it's sad to see or sad to hear when elders are telling you that we used to be the model for what a good family household was. And it's the same thing in America as well when you do the research. Like just during the Jim Crow laws and after Jim Crow laws, 75% of black families were complete unit. But then after the welfare system, it went down to what, 30, possibly 25 now. I don't know the exact figures, but it does have an impact because then there's no accountability within the community. There's no shame culture that puts people down for doing the wrong things, and that is a major part what I see is happening right now, which is destroying our communities because we don't seem to have a shame culture for a lot of things, which we should have.
No, we should. But I think that we're destroying ourselves through lack of informed kind of education in that respect, and kind of being receptive to being, open to trying different things. Like literally, like I could have followed my dad's, whole model of being a father because that's what he showed me. Yeah. But it came a time that when I knew I was having my son, and I promised to him, I said, you know what, I whispered to him, he was like a week old. I said, I'm never going to let you down. I'm always going to be here for you no matter what. And I don't live with my son. He lives with his mum. Unfortunately, things didn't work out between me and his mum from a very early age. Yeah. He was very young. However, I've always been there, and I've always made that effort because he is my son. Yeah, most definitely. And I think, again, that's a kind of critical consciousness. You're making a conscious decision to say, right, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do what's morally right. He didn't ask to be here. That's my son. I have to do my best for him. And despite it being difficult over the times in terms of access and maybe seeing him, I had to be consistent. I had to think about the long game that, coming down the line, he may feel like me at, 8, 9, 10. I have to be around and tell that story and let him know that I've been consistently here. We've built that relationship. And it's important, especially as a young black male, that his father's around because we know what happens to some, that don't have their father around. A large majority. If you look at the literature and the statistics, in terms of like what happens. Yeah, but I just didn't want to be that kind of father. So again, I think that we can blame exterior factors, but we also got to look within ourselves and say, you know what, we have to improve. I'm a big believer in accountability. And I think until we become accountable for ourselves, for our community, for our people, and for our wrongdoings, it's going to be very hard for us to make change because there's a lot of things that we accept that I don't think are acceptable. And if you look in other cultures, there's a lot that they wouldn't accept, which we just take as the norm. And we don't see that, when we're indulging in it, we sometimes forget to see the impact that it's having on our communities. But when it starts bearing fruit and we start seeing the bodies and the violence and the failures and the economic failures and everything else, those are the reasons why, because we let a lot slip. I mean, I don't want to go into the details as in what we let slip and stuff because I'm not well rehearsed in all the statistics, but we do accept a lot within the community, which I don't feel is right. Well, you know what I mean? I'll tell you one such example is this whole we don't snitch, Yeah. And the thing is, now, the thing is, no one wants to be a snitch until something happens to someone in their family. Yeah, and then it's completely changed. Then you want to actually like, well, I had to talk to the police or And this is the whole thing, like, talking about Raheem now, obviously Raheem's death in May, like, there's no CCTV footage, there were eyewitnesses there, but no one wants to talk to the police. Yeah. And unfortunately, that is one such aspect of our culture that we need to get rid of. Yeah. And unfortunately, like, because we're not policing ourselves. If we were policing ourselves, I'd understand. But and I think that's what. Sorry to cut you off there. I think what a lot of people forget about the whole no snitching stuff. It came about when we were under extreme brutality from the police and the system. Right. And that's why we had to have that community cohesion where we did not snitch because they were against us at the time. Right. But it's not like that anymore. That's it's slightly different. It's not as extreme, but it's still it's not to that extreme. It's not to that extreme where we had to like have that like sealed lip within the community. But now we're kind of doing it to the detriment of ourselves and to our children and the people who are suffering because of this
these type of rules.
Yeah. And again, so you know, we're not really helping ourselves in that matter. And again, no one's coming out and being like, you know what, maybe we need to evaluate this. But then on the other hand, if you do that, then you know that people are going to try and hurt you in this day and age. And so it's a fine balance. It's very, very difficult. But yeah, we need to help ourselves.
How do we come out of that though? Like, how do we re-educate ourselves or reprogram the mind to come out of systems like that? Because it's something I'm constantly having debates and talks about with friends in terms of like, how do you change such a large and such an influential community and culture? Like, you can't just do it overnight. So it has to be a generational thing. But what are the steps we take? Because you can't, when you're under so much pressure, to not, do you know what I mean? To not conform.
For me, it's working with young people.
Yeah.
They're what's coming next. They're the next generation. They're going to be here after we're dead and gone. And for me, it's equipping them with that kind of critical, you know, analysis of, right, we're not doing well in this situation. Rather than me follow what I've seen, let me try something else.
Yeah.
And again, it's going back to that whole fixed mindset, growth mindset thing. It's giving young people those tools to be able to be like, right, I'm going to look at this side. I'm going to look at this side. Right, now I'm going to make my decision. This is what I'm going to do. And I think we're too impulsive as people sometimes. And we've had to do that because of the way that, you know, social conditioning. We've had to be very impulsive. We don't really plan ahead, you know, and that's an issue. So again, it goes back to young people. That's why I work, you know, so hard with young people and give my all, because I know that they could make the change one day. One of these children could make such a significant change. And you know, if I was, you know, one of the people, one of my team at Mentivity, to switch that light on in their head, to go on to greater things, you know, like, and it doesn't even have to be greater things. It could just be literally not going to prison, you know, not being in a gang. You know,
in some areas, that's a massive achievement.
Right, exactly. So you never know what you're going to uncover. And I feel that, you know, it's important because that happened to me, and I never kind of envisaged that I would be doing what I'm doing today. You know, all I wanted to be was a professional football player. And I think I probably limited myself, even though I did it, you know, but I didn't have the career that I wanted to. So then I kind of had to step back and think, right, what am I going to do now? And then it was no long-term plan. Like I said, I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. So I've actually gone back to the drawing board and started working with young people in a sport that I enjoyed, which is football. And then from that, everything has come. Everything
so kind of unveil yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, so again, that's why I think it's important to just find your passion and follow your passion, you know, persevere no matter what, and be dedicated to it. And that is what I've done, you know, in terms of, you know, football. You know, I've got my own football club with my brother, so City of London FC, you know, we started off 5 years ago, and also Leon Wright, our business partner, is one of the coaches as well, and the founding members. But we started off with 5 children like 5 years ago. We've now got 11 teams playing down at Market Road, you know, in the Camden in Youth League. So again, it's just staying true to what we enjoy and what we love, and from that, other things have came out, and just taking the leap and setting up Mentivity. And I think showcasing that to young people is so important. You know, I'm 35. I've had my own business nearly 3 years now, and for me, that's quite massive, considering where I grew up.
That's a great achievement.
And you know, we have 10 employees. Again, no government funding, and we have to tell young people this. You know, our company is turning over 6 figures now, and it's important to tell them.
It shows them that work ethic as well, isn't it? So they can do it coming from the same surroundings you're from. So.
But for me, the greatest joy, as well as providing the service for young people, is providing employment opportunities for people within my community that share the same passion, and that, you know, we're not bound by working for a charity and their ideals. And you know, this has been set out by myself, by Tyson, by Leon, this whole model, and you know, we're showcasing it to them, and they're now taking it in different ways, and it's just having those like-minded people
around.
Is it
making them more entrepreneurial, you find?
Yeah, for sure. Everyone, because everyone is basically self-employed, so they don't work for me. You know, I'm not their boss. I don't refer to myself as a boss or anything like that. Like, they work for Mentivity. They work for the community.
No, so I mean, like the young children that you work with, them seeing what you're doing in terms of like carrying out your own businesses and making them more entrepreneurial.
I mean, that's what we're encouraging them to do, and the reason why I said, because some of our mentors are like 21.
Oh wow,
they're very young, but they showcase, you know, certain kind of aspects, and I'm like, these guys will add to Mentivity and add up to our offer.
Yeah.
And that's what's been important. But that's what we're encouraging a lot of young people to do. Like
That's
in this day
amazing.
and age, you have to work for yourself.
Yeah.
If you can do it in your field of interest, then do it. And that's why we're so focused on signposting young people to their passions. You know, if they want to do music, right, we're going to find somewhere for you to go and do music production. I know this person. So we've got quite a vast network of people that do really positive things. So we're just trying to get them into what they want. You know, we're working with year 10s at Wolf Academy now, and they're doing work experience coming up. Some of them had no clue. We were sitting there today with them. They had no clue. But the thing is that all the information was given to them.
Yeah.
But because it was like 8 pages, I'm like, you don't want to read. They don't want to read.
No, that's not. I wouldn't even want to read 8 pages.
But I know,
Yeah.
but I'm like,
Yes,
this is your future. If you don't want to invest in yourself, how are you going to experience any kind of success?
And no one's going to do it for you.
No, so it's then saying to them, right, so imagine you want to buy a house, okay, and you've got a savings account, and you don't put any money in there, and then 5 years down the line, you expect to buy a house?
Yeah.
No. You have to put money in there. You have to be working hard.
You have to be disciplined.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have to work towards a goal. You guys are not investing any time in yourself, but you're expecting to be paid. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense at all. So, you know, you get out what you put in. And, you know, we showcase that through some of our conversation-based learning sessions, like how hard do you work, you know, the importance of having a work ethic. And what we've done is detailed my jobs and Tyson's jobs since the age of 13.
Yeah.
I've been working since the age of 13.
Oh, wow.
I was cleaning a nightclub on Old Kent Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the age of 13. Getting £33 between me, my brothers, and my 2 brothers, Ramon and Tyson.
Yeah.
Sharing £11 each, but doing that 4 times a week.
That's some serious work ethic there.
Trust, and you know, going into the toilets.
It's
and,
the making
you know,
of a man, though, isn't it?
But that's what I mean, you know, our mum gave us that opportunity. But I've always been personally been able to make money, and like I will go to school and I will buy the straws at the bakery, which are 1p.
Yeah.
I'll go and buy £5 worth. It's 500. Getting to school, I
Sell them up
for 2p in the morning. Afternoon is 3 pence.
Yeah.
So I'm doubling and tripling my money, and literally from that I'll buy people's dinner tickets. I'd sell mine for £1, and I'll buy another one for 50p.
Yeah, you know about them.
So yeah, so I would do things like that. So I've always had that, and always been able to talk to people. So this is kind of an extension of who I am, and you know, being able to sell, you know, a service to people. I've always sold things, and you know, tried to be kind of one of those guys. But you know, it's important. So now using that plus of all the, you know, professional, you know, development,
merging the two together. Yeah.
Now when I go in, I'm sitting down with head teachers, and I'm talking to them about my service. I can sell it to them effectively.
Most
You
definitely.
know, and I can look at it from a different, you know, point of view. And I didn't have that. You know, I had to learn that over time, and I didn't have that kind of, you know, these traits, and I wasn't aware of these traits at a young age. At 20, I was still a boy.
Yeah.
I don't think that I became a man until probably my late 20s.
Most definitely. Likewise.
Yeah. And again, you look at your other counterparts from different backgrounds. They're men at 20.
Yeah.
They're 21,
Yeah.
but they've got that base of knowledge and that foundation of knowledge because they're probably a little bit further ahead, and their parents are giving them that information that we didn't have access to. So I think that's really, really important. And again, it goes back to why this work is so important for me.
Yeah.
You know, working with year 11s, looking at financial literacy, looking at taxes, looking about working part-time.
Because these are the things that the school system doesn't really give us, does it? Because I mean, simple things like understanding credit and like banking, and just the basics of it. I didn't have a clue until like my mid-late 20s.
No clue.
It's only when I first decided, okay, well, not when I decided, but when I reached the point where I could actually afford to buy a place. I was told, oh, now I need to check my credit score. Only then to find out that I had a massive red mark on my credit, which was about to disappear in a year or two's time. But prior to that, I didn't have a clue.
Right.
And these are the things that the school system completely leaves out of its curriculum. So unless we're being taught these things, and unless there's projects like the ones you're running yourself out there educating us from young, it then makes it easier for us to prepare and set ourselves up for the future. So that's really essential. But one thing I wanted to touch on is like, how do we go about educating the parents as well? So first thing is, how do we educate them in terms of protecting their children from falling wayward, and then also giving them the tools for them to educate their children in getting to find out about projects like yours? Like, how would they come across something like what you do?
I mean, first and foremost, another facet of our program is that we incorporate home visits.
Okay.
So the school will pay us a certain amount of money, and in based on what they pay us, and it's a standardized rate, we go and do home visits if needed. But we give a call to parents. We'll say, here's my card, take them to your parents. Let them give me a call so I can explain to them.
This is after identifying the children.
So the school will be refer them, and they'll be like, right, hi, my name is Sayce from Mentivity, blah, blah, blah. I'm here to support your child, here to support you guys. If you need any help, give me a shout. And the thing is, a lot of parents, you know, they're a bit standoffish at first. They're like, oh, he doesn't need a mentor. He doesn't need support.
Yeah, my child is alright.
Yeah, my child, yeah.
Everyone's
And
child is
those
good.
are the ones that have the most problematic children. But again, it's breaking that barrier and saying, look, I am a mentor, but I'm not attached to the school. I'm the middle ground. I'm your middle ground and your kind of contact between, you know, yourself, your child, and the school.
Yeah.
So kind of, you know, triangulated support, kind of in that respect that we're in the center, but we, you know, bridging that gap, saying, right, you know what, to the school, he's having this sort of issue at home. His parents are just split up, or his grandparents just died, or whatever it may be, or he's really struggling with this. And again, it's making them aware, because teachers and, you know, staff at school don't really understand some of the obstacles that young people face just getting into school at 8:15, 8:30 in the morning. You know, they may have encountered about 5 different obstacles. You know, some young people are young carers. You know, they're caring for their parents, and they get into school late, and they've done everything they possibly can to get to school on time, and they get to school and they get in detention. No, they can't even, like, their day's just messed up for the rest of the day. So literally, it's making the school aware, but also making the children aware that the school are going to be doing that. You know what? They're looking to permanently exclude you. If you don't fix up, then you're going to be gone. And once you go, you go into a pupil referral unit. From there, you're going to get into a gang.
That's it. You're stuck in the system.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the same story we've seen over and over again. And again, it's not just restricted to young black males. Like, you know, the Irish community in Bermondsey, like a lot of, you know, the Irish boys end up in pupil referral units because they've already got ready-made jobs, you know. They go in and scaffolding and all that stuff like that. You know, what do I need school for? I can make £200 a day now. You know, I'm 15. So, or I'm going to go and join the army or whatever.
But that's the family that set that up, though. So that's the stage that we need to get to, whereby there is that community or family structure for us to go into other vocations.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you. But yeah, it comes back down to, you know, supporting each other and again, investing in each other's businesses. And that's another key thing. But for me now, obviously being a business owner and having 2 businesses now, like, I understand how important it is to support other people's businesses, whether it's, you know, airplay and promoting it or just liking it on Instagram or sharing it. You know, it's hugely and massively important. And I feel that now we have an opportunity now. You know, we've got YouTube, we've got Instagram. This is free advertising now, pretty much. So you can get it out there. And for me, it's the right time for Mentivity. We've honed our whole offer, and, you know, we're in a really good place now. And obviously, taking part in the Panorama and, you know, the Sky News documentary now, and obviously that's things such as this is very, very important to me, to kind of get out there and speak about our work, because I think that we're solidified within the community now. You know, we're in 15 schools across London.
Oh, that's amazing.
We're as far away as Edenbridge in Kent, Croydon, Bromley, Tower Hamlets. We're in Wood Green. It's school in Wood Green. You know, so it's valued, and, you know, and it's a need for it, and we're going to continue to be there for as long as you know, as we can. And for us, our ultimate aim is to have our own school one day.
Okay.
So I'm planning to have that within the next 2 years.
What sort of school would that be? That secondary or primary?
So it'd probably be primary to start off with. So just starting off earlier, and then obviously progressing to secondary. But I want it to be kind of, you know, informal education alongside formal. So using our kind of the philosophy of Mentivity alongside formal education.
So is that merging like life skills with the educational curriculum?
Pretty much to give us much, you know, better, well-rounded young people who are equipped for the world, you know, because education hasn't changed in 40, 50, 60, 70 years. But the world has changed massively in the last 10 alone.
And each individual is different as well when you look at the education system, because we're all kind of being taught the same way, when not everyone soaks up or digests information. It's all standardized.
You're just taught to go and work in an office, basically,
pretty much,
and just follow instructions. And unfortunately, if that was the case and we were all like that, the world would be a very boring place. You know, we wouldn't have such great people that have come across in our times, and we need to have the freedom of expression. And I don't want to take that away from young people, because their imaginations are fantastic. You know, and as we get older, that is something that dwindles in adults, and you know, that takes away, you know,
we get caught up in the system.
You know, you want to dream, you want to go and be like, you know, I'm going to travel, I'm going to do this one day. I don't want to be bound by rules, and that's always me. I never want to be bound by rules, but I have to adhere to certain rules in order to have a nice life. I can't drive 100 miles an hour on a 20.
No, definitely not.
You know what I mean? But I've got to, you know, I want to do certain things. I want to break the mold, and, you know, it's just weird. Like, especially after the last couple of weeks of the airing of the documentary, just people, you know, hitting me up, like just randomly on Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Snapchat, and it's just been amazing because I'm realizing that people value this type of work.
Most definitely.
And that's, you know, a further incentive, even though I didn't need it.
Yeah, and that's one of my reasons for inviting you here, because people value that work, but it's then putting the work in front of people for them to notice it in the first place, because there's so many other people out there that are yet to hear about you, or yet to hear about the work that you do. I know. And that's why we constantly need to reaffirm it, constantly need to be pushing it out there, because there's so many other negative forces fighting against us, but we're not necessarily pushing all the positive stuff to the forefront, which we need to be doing more of.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
One question I was going to ask you is, what do you think is the government's role in society and in regards to communities?
To be honest, I feel that it's gonna. It's always goes. It swings and roundabouts. To be honest, I think it goes full circle. Obviously, with the coalition government and the Conservative government, they're all about free market capitalism. You know, then we go to Labour, who are about, you know, social outcomes and investing heavily in the public services and stuff. And again, it depends which government is in power. But you know, we're looking at Conservative now, and I think the country's a mess. Yeah. It's a mess. I mean, it's opportunities. But, you know, with the lack of support for young people, which now the money's coming back slowly. You know, everyone wants to, you know, at the end of the spectrum, throw money at it and say, oh, we've got to get more police and this and that. But it goes beyond that. And it goes way beyond that, Yeah, I think that the government, you know, this has been a problem of their own doing. Again, we have to have a fine balance between, you know, spending, you know, money in public services, but also allowing those that, like, such as myself, you know, I have my own business now,
to thrive, and to be entrepreneurial.
So again, it's a fine balance, but the government has to take responsibility, but they got to stop with this whole top-down approach. Top-down approaches for social issues and community issues doesn't work. It doesn't work. You need people like myself on the ground that know the solutions, know how to work with young people, and can offer, you know, the support to young people that they need, which is tailor-made. We can't have standardized support, you know, for all the young people that we work with. It's different relationships with different people. But
would you say the government is at fault for what's currently happening or what's been happening? Because so the reason I asked this because I was speaking to a couple of young people in regards to who they think is responsible for what's going on within their communities and stuff, and majority of them, and I know they're not really that well informed because young people just tend to repeat wherever they hear, and majority of them were saying, oh, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, and I asked them, why would they say the government? Like, why are they pointing the finger at the government? Like, do they know exactly what government does, and in terms of society, and in terms of like being sort of like a unbiased umpire to society and enforcing laws and stuff like that? Like, what are some of the things that the government have done for it to reach a stage where a child will grab a knife and stab another child? So I tried to then break it down to them the best I could in terms of how, like, I mean, lack of funding and lack of opportunities and so forth then trickles down because poverty causes violence. Well, not necessarily poverty. I think it's more what's the word? It's more relative poverty, because I've read quite a bit of literature in terms of like how poverty affects people violently. And if you live in an area where everyone's got £2, there's not going to be that much violence. There will be robberies, but not equality. It's equality. It's when there's relative poverty. It's when you're living on the same road with two guys driving a Ferrari, but then just around the corner, there's a family that can't afford to buy milk. And that is the major issue, that lack of equality, and that's what I try to explain to them. It's relative poverty that causes more sort of like violent measures. So I wanted to sort of have your take on it, because you work directly with young people, and just explaining a bit about your understanding as to the government's role in society and how they should be accountable for some, and then the government should be accountable for other segments, not for the whole thing, if that makes sense.
I feel that the government are to blame to a certain extent. However, we have to blame ourselves because we keep putting the same two parties in power. So if everyone refused to vote for Labour or Conservative, those are not our only options. We've been led to believe that that's our only option, and we continue to do the same cycle. So basically, you know, it's delusional. Like we're banging our head against a brick wall, saying, "Oh, this government, this and that," and it's still hurting. You know, whichever government someone's going to complain. but we haven't got that balance yet, and we haven't understood that this whole two-party system, even though, you know, we had the coalition, it doesn't work. And so for us as a community, we have to start thinking a bit more, you know, critically, like, right, we don't have to vote for this you know, Labour or Conservatives or Lib Dems. Let's kind of mobilise ourselves. So I feel that we are to blame also. And also as a community, you know, we've allowed ourselves to go so far away from our principles, as mentioned before, and then we still complain. Like, we're not putting that work into our young people. We're not putting that work into ourselves. And for me, you can keep pointing and saying, but ultimately it comes back to you personally. If on that same road, if those people that are driving Ferraris decide, you know what, I don't need a Ferrari, those kids are out here doing nothing, let's just give them some money for a football or a football kit. Those little things, you know, work. But everyone is so for self now.
Most definitely,
such a capitalist outlook that we're just now forgetting about the human aspect of people. That, you know, if someone is down the road and you can see them struggling and you don't help out, what kind of person are you? You know, and if you're aware of something and you do nothing, that is the worst, you know, kind of person. That, you know, if you can help, you should help.
It's like you're participating in it in a way or form.
So I just feel that, you know, we can continue to point things at the government. Like, as I said, I didn't want to wait for donations to set up my business. You wouldn't have done it, because I would not be where I am today, you know, with the company. We had to go through some hard times. We had to worry where our next meals were. I had to move out of my house. I had to move out of my house, live with my grand. I had to sell my nice car, you know, and downgrade for me. You know, I was just like, oh man, but these are sacrifices I need to make, not just for me. Obviously, I've got my son, I've got to provide for him, but also for my community. And it wasn't an issue for me to do that, because I know there's a greater need based on what I went through, what I've experienced.
And you saw the long-term positiveness to it as well, so
you know,
it wasn't sort of like short-term gains.
Other opportunities that will arise out of this. You know, everyone wants to live good, everyone wants to enjoy. But for me, I always knew from a young age that I would always be able to make money and I will have a good life. But I have to do what I love, and that was just, I just understood that for whatever reason. I had to go through things that I didn't want to do, go through jobs I didn't want to do. You know, when I break it down to young people and tell them I've had, you know, in excess of 44 different roles, you know, since the age of 13 in jobs, they're like, what?
They don't get it.
Yeah, I'm like, I worked in a silver service restaurant. I was a silver service waiter. You know, in Bloomsbury. You know, waiting on people in a waistcoat, standing there, serving from the left, all that stuff like
but
that.
Everything's so glamorized that if you tell someone that sometimes you need to take a couple of steps back in order to bounce, they just don't get it. They that level of pride and so the glamorized lifestyles that we see nowadays is preventing the grind.
But it's only you only see that glamorized lifestyle because people allow you to see it.
They definitely.
They don't show you the journey to get to that.
No, they don't.
And that's what people are forgetting. Like, I call it microwave culture. Everyone just wants to get rich quick. They put whatever it is, their dreams in the oven. 1 minute, bing, I've made it. No, it doesn't go like that.
And then if it doesn't happen that quick, then they kind of like delve into like depression and whatnot.
Listen, I gave my all to play professional football. Gave my absolute all. Had a bad agent, bad injuries, and literally it just didn't work out for me. I gave 2,000% to that, you know, and it just didn't work out because it wasn't meant to be. However, what we try to tell young people and even, you know, adults is that you've got to work towards something that you're passionate about. Even if you don't get there, there's going to be other opportunities that come up because of that. And that is basically what's happened. Like, me, my motto, I always give things a go.
No, definitely, likewise.
Give it a go. Give it a go. I was asked to do a keynote speech in Canada about my work in 2014. I've never delivered a keynote speech in my life. 250 people. I didn't know what I was doing. I went out there. I was so scared. Hands were freezing because when I told my hands to get ice cold, and literally I went up there and delivered. And I delivered. I was after the nervous start, I delivered, and then I felt great. But that gave me the confidence. Then it asked me to come back the following year, do the opening keynote again.
Amazing.
So I went out and then was like, right, I feel a bit more assured now. And talking about my work with young people, this is before I set up Mentivity. It actually gave me the kind of inspiration to go forward and take the jump. Because I had enough. You know, so again, you always give things a go. And out of those speeches and the friends that I made from those conferences in Canada, they're like, Sayce, it's time now. You've got to take the jump. You've got to do it. You know, like some of my biggest cheerleaders, man, they're great. And I'm like, look, this is where I am now. You gave me that chance. So you always have to give things a go, and that's for me. You never know where it's going to take
Most
you.
definitely.
You know, you could travel somewhere, you can meet. That's why I like to travel.
Yeah.
You got to get out there. You got to put yourself out there and let people know what you're doing.
Likewise, some of the most amazing people I've met came through traveling. Because at a young age, me and my mates, we decided to start traveling from a very, very young age, and we ended up networking in essence. We thought we were just making random friends, but these are people we still talk to now. These are people that opportunities have derived from, because we kept these relationships going. So it's about also realizing that the world is bigger than your road, your estate, or your circle of friends, and it's so much more enjoyable, and it's so much more excitement, and so much more to learn from the world than there is in your little community. So it's just seeing beyond that as well, because majority of these kids are trapped. They're kind of like trapped in their little environment.
They are, and
which is only a fraction of what the world is.
And this is what we try to do. We just really try to showcase what we're doing in our lives. We tell them we're not perfect, but we let them know, we've travelled, we've done this, we've worked super hard this year. Like in the summer, I told the children, after we went back from September, in September, what do you do in the summer, Sayce? Well, I had the first week, I chilled out pretty much. Then I went to Barbados for 2 weeks at Carnival. Then I went to Jamaica for a week with my son and my brother and friends. And then I came back, stayed there for a week. Then I went to LA and Vegas. Then I came back and I'm back to work.
A bit of mind blown by that.
Yeah, and they're like, I'll show them pictures. Yeah, like, I was here, and they're just like, oh man. And again, it's just opening their minds and
it's different level of inspiration, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm just like them. You know, I grew up. I'm in their area, going, in their school. This is my same area. I'm still doing my work in the area. Yeah. And again, you've got to showcase that. You've got to give them that inspiration, and it's not showing off and anything like that. It's just saying, you know what, this is what I enjoy. This is another one of my passions. I'm doing what I'm passionate about. Yeah. And through doing this traveling, going to Canada, for example, has opened up the door for this project in Kenya that I'm going to next month. So I met someone fantastic there, and they said, look, I really want to get you to Africa to look at, football projects. And I'm like, that's what I do. I'm a good coach, and, I played at a decent level. So now that's come up, and that's 4 years down the line.
Oh wow, that's
so
amazing.
If you understand, so again, I will communicate this to young people and say, look, this is what I'm doing. These are my targets. I want to be a football agent, within this time. I want to do this. I'm gonna have the Mentivity school, and I'm gonna make these things.
And these are the steps you're gonna take to make it happen as well.
And that's it. It's breaking it down.
It's breaking it down as well,
so they can see. And I will do my to-do list at the beginning of the week, and my little spider charts, and I'll go into school and say, look, these are my targets for the week to the kids, like that. All that stuff. Yeah. Like, are you gonna get that done? Yeah. And literally today, I was so happy today because within a week, I got it all done. You got it done. I was like that. Yes. I told the kids, I said, yes, I did it. Yeah. And again, it's being happy with that success, even though it's a little bit, and them seeing that, they're like, oh, cool. Yeah. So now, the year 11s that we worked with today, we're gearing them towards their GCSEs. Like you said, looking at credit, looking at this stuff, post 16, going, into education. What's going to be right for you? Is it going to be A levels? Is it going to be BTEC? Is it going to be apprenticeship? Yeah. And it's just literally broadening their horizons and giving them that time, which they don't have. And
I think some of them are actually that smart that they could actually be starting businesses at that age, but it's just realizing their potential. Already. Yeah, because I think I started my first business when I was probably I think I was 14 or so. I had a paper round job, and where I lived, the guy who I worked for, he really liked me, and his brothers had about 3-4 corner shops locally as well, and he said, well, you can take up paper rounds with them as well if you want to earn additional money. I think I was getting about £15 a week per shop. So I was on my rollerblades running 3 paper rounds before I went to school in the morning. Yeah. But then what I decided was, it wasn't just what I decided, but it started becoming quite tiring and hard to run 3 of those operations simultaneously. Yeah. And I decided to sort of franchise off one of the paper rounds to one of my boys, and I was paying him £10, but I had to deal with the corner shop. I was making money. I was telling him, look, my boy's gonna come here. Tell him you're only paying £10. Really and truly, I was taking a little £5 on top of that. So it's that entrepreneurial mindset that kicked in from an early age, and the opportunities that I had from me wanting to get something done and push on from there. So definitely, a lot of kids are They got vivid imagination, they got vast imagination, and they're quite creative as well. So it's about harnessing that. Yeah.
Again, it goes back to what I said. We lose that as adults, and that's when life becomes very mundane. You always have to have dreams. You always have to have targets, and I will continue. Another one of my dreams is to play a musical instrument, playing a band. That's what my dad has a band, but I wasn't interested in music. Growing up, I was interested in football. So that's one of my targets: learn a language, live in another country. I've done that. I've lived in the States, in DC for 5 months. I've lived in the Republic of Ireland, playing professional football. I've travelled to Romania to play football, like, you know, and I got myself a deal there, but things didn't work out. So it's just setting those targets and just pushing those boundaries yourself, you know, saying, right, I'm not in competition with anybody. You know, we tell young people, you're in competition with yourself. When you're running a race, you're doing 100 meters, you don't see people, the person that's looking to the left and the person to the right, they're the one that end up getting disqualified out of the lane. They don't finish. The one that looks and focuses to the end and keeps that focus is the one who finishes first. And it's the best, obviously, training technique, but they're focused.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're running a race with yourself. And that's what's important. And, you know, young people, they see these analogies and hear these analogies and like, right, this is, okay, cool, I get these guys.
Yeah.
And it's just giving them hope. You know, humans, we work best when we have hope.
Most definitely.
And that's what we're trying to instill.
And when we've seen someone else achieve it, someone that kind of looks like us or speaks like us or understands us, it gives us that additional boost as well, that if he can do it, then there's no other way that I can't do it. One of the other interesting parts that, in terms of conversations that I've been having recently, is police relations within the community and having issues with people feeling like police are stereotyping them, and there's no relationship between the community. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is I've been reading up a lot recently in regards to how Scotland managed to deal with their issues and their violent crime. 2005, yeah. And they brought in the violent crime unit, and in order for that it was quite wild the way they done it. They literally brought all the top criminals, all the leaders of all the gangs into one room. So this was one of the first initial meetings that the local authorities had, and they had the pictures on the walls with all the top gang members and all of the leaders and all the hierarchies of the gangs in the room. And they told them, look, you're in this room, all you gang members, these are all the people within the community. You had all the dentists there, the local ice cream man, the kebab shop man. They're like, we know who you guys are. We know what you guys are doing. So we're going to work with these people within the community to put a stop to what you're doing. So it was sort of like a unified front within the community, and everyone partook in it, everyone participated, everyone was involved in order to solve the crime. Now they hardly have any crime. It's because the community stepped up and the community actively took part in reducing the crime. So if you went to the dentist, for instance, and they realized that your tooth got punched out and it didn't fall out naturally, they'll quickly write a report, hand it over, and you knew you couldn't do nothing because there's a picture of you on the wall. So it's like a community thing in order for that to happen. But that's really difficult within our community to implement something like that, because people always say, oh, how was the issue in Scotland resolved? It was resolved because it was a collaborative effort for it to be resolved. But this goes back to what we were discussing earlier on as well, in terms of like our culture and our relationship with law and enforcement, is how do we bridge that gap between us and, not us per se, but between people that are partaking in criminal activities and the law and the community?
First and foremost, I think the problem with the police is that they always come in at the end of the spectrum when it comes to, you know, negativity. It's always it's a negative end.
Like a movie, like an action movie.
So it's always at the end when something has happened. So obviously it's pretty reactive. You look at someone like the fire service and the ambulance, because they're not actually enforcing the law, they're actually helping people. You know, but you don't see firefighters driving up and down the streets looking for fires.
That's true.
Again, you look at the police, it's like they're looking for trouble. They're looking for... Sometimes they get it right. No problem. That's not... You've got to go off your intuition. And I understand that. But for me, you're instigating a lot of issues within the community, because you're coming at the end of the spectrum. How you treat people, you know, when it comes to stop and search. You know, I've been stopped and searched so many times, even in my vehicle, you know, like, oh, we're searching...
What, most recently?
Not so much recently. I think I'm getting I'm getting old now. But I think also with the car that you drive, and I've got a hatchback now, whereas I had a saloon before. You know, BMW looked at it a bit more. You know, like, okay, he should be in that car. But you know, when you're driving like a Golf and an A3 and stuff like that, they might look at you and think, right, let me check this out. But I rarely get stopped now. But when I have been stopped, it's like they're talking down to me. I'm like, no, first and foremost, have some respect. 2, you need to let me know.
You're working for me.
Yeah. I pay taxes, but I need to know why you're stopping me. What did I do that warranted me being stopped? And they talk to me in a certain way. But before, I used to really kind of take a hard, aggressive line with police officers because I didn't like them from a young age, and I was assaulted by a police officer for no reason other than being on the train. He asked me to come off at the age of 14. I said, no, I'm not going to come off until you tell me what I've supposedly done. If you can tell me what I've supposedly done, I will come off and have a conversation with you. And I literally said this at 14. And he's like, right, he grabbed me off the train, assaulted me twice with truncheon in my abdomen, handcuffed me, dragged me up the stairs. And from then I was like, can't stand police. Didn't like authority anyway. So that took me about 15 years to get over that. Like literally, when I got stopped by police, it was like, what do you want? Like being aggressive, being that stereotype. So now, it's like, you know what? How's it going, Gaffer? You are? Are you doing?
Learn how to deal with it.
Yeah. I'm like, what do you stop me for? I'm just trying to understand that I've got somewhere to be, but you know, let me know. And we'll have that conversation. But the thing is, sometimes you can have that conversation, but when you have a negative experience, it gets rid of all the good before. That's just human nature. So when you have one negative experience with a police officer, you automatically tar them all with the same brush, because obviously they've been proven to be institutionally racist. That's how it is. However, they're not trying to build relations, you know, within schools. Yes, they have on-site police officers, but what are you actually doing to build relations with your community? Whereas before it was a lot different. You have, you know, bobbies on the beat. You would know their name. They'll talk to you. Like, what are you guys doing on the street? You better not be doing anything. Like, all right, cool. See
Call everyone by their tag name as well. It's like they know who you are.
That's what it was like before. And it was actually, there was an interest, there was a human aspect there. But now it's just like, oh, I'm superior because I've got this badge on and I'm a police officer and I'm more intelligent than you.
Do you also think they're affected by what they see in the media as well, and their portrayal of
Of course.
So that has an impact into how they act.
But the thing is that, yes, it is dangerous and it is difficult to be a police officer. However, you need to be a people person, because you're dealing with people. And if you can't do that, then it's not the right job for you. And that's the problem. Like, when I see, sometimes I'll be driving by and I'll see a child getting stopped and searched by police. I'll stop. I'll stand there. Oh, you can't stand there. Yes, I can. I just want to see that everything's, you know, it's above board, you know, talking with respect, and make sure that the young person is dealing with himself accordingly. And that's what it's about. And I think we need to do more of that in the community, and, you know, challenge police to be a little bit better, but in an elegant way.
Most definitely. That's the part I was waiting for.
And again, for me, like, I went to a community meeting where the police were talking about stop and search, and she was talking that it was a very optimistic approach to stop and search. And I'm like, I don't know where you've seen this being implemented, but this is not happening. This
person like that, they've been stopped and searched before.
Sorry, you're so far away from this, because I've been stopped and I've been spoken to in a certain way, and I've been handcuffed for no reason, other than that they're just taking me at face value as a stereotypical black person. Not that, you know what do you do in the community? Oh, yeah, I work, I have a business. Oh, what do you do? It's not taking you at face value. It's not human, and I don't like the approach that they have. So they need to really work on that, and also have other initiatives that help young people, not, you know, the tokenistic stuff. And like, I'm talking long-term, you know, investment in your communities, rather than saying, oh, we need more police in the street, that's why we got more crime. No, that's not it.
No, definitely
that's not it.
So there's deeper rooted issues.
It's a hard job. I'm not gonna, because police, obviously they do a lot of good, and we can't dismiss that. And obviously they're doing it to the best of their ability, and obviously they need to look at their CPD for police officers in terms of that, and diversity training and whatever it may be. Because for me, your workforce should be reflective of the community you serve. When you've got, you know, police officers coming from outside of London, they
don't understand the culture. That's similar to teaching as well. When you have teachers coming from absolutely nowhere and then teaching in inner city London, and they just completely don't get the culture.
Totally agree with you, and that's a major issue. Is that it's square pegs and round holes. Like, if you're not open and I'm not saying it's impossible, but if you're not receptive to being outside your comfort zone and saying, right, let me approach my teaching style different. Let me approach my methods differently. Let me be a different type of person. Let me be invested in these young people. Ask them how they're doing. Rather than being so directive and being abrupt and whatever it may be. It's hard because teachers are under a lot of pressure. It's a fine balance. But I've seen some phenomenal teachers who literally just give respect to young people. And because of that respect, these young people will do anything in that classroom. And again, it just comes back to the basic principles, like we said in the beginning. These are basic principles that we seem to forget, that adults believe that they should command respect from an adult rather than giving respect to a young person and then getting it back. When I work with young people, I give them that respect until they give me a bit of disrespect. I can give it back to them. You know, I'm from the end. I can give it to you. I can cuss you. I can and make you feel stupid. That's not a problem. We used to do that every day at school. That is my culture. However, they know once they've tried to cross that boundary and you check them, they're not going to do that again. And they have that respect. And again, it's just having clear boundaries. Adults need clear boundaries. All relationships whether they're, you know, with your wife, your colleague at work,
always need to be boundaries, yeah.
all based around boundaries. And that's what I've realized now, you know, in my mid-30s, that it's about boundaries, and it's so clear. You know, like with my son, he knows there's certain things that he can and cannot do, because I'm not going to accept it. And if he does that, he knows that there's going to be consequences. So again, it goes back to the boundaries. So I feel that boundaries in so many different settings, when we talk about the police, we talk about teaching, we talk about working with young people, it's about having those clear boundaries and saying you've got to work within those boundaries as a means to flourish.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're going to be open to anything.
So everyone just needs better education, don't they? So like in terms of like how to go about, so the police need to understand how the community sees them, and then how they can sort of like better that relationship with the community. And then the community needs to also understand that in order to not get the best out of the police, but in order to deal with them, there's a certain aspect of your character, there's certain behaviors that you need to address. In order for them not to just, you know what I mean, treat you as if you're just any other stereotype.
I think, I mean, my brother, you know, when we had the panorama stuff, he spoke about empathy. And how important empathy is, like, and it's about understanding how people feel in certain situations. Once you can understand how people feel in certain situations, then you know how to act accordingly. You know, if you know that something you're going to do, say for example you're married, you know that if you go out and buy that convertible and go home, your wife's going to be upset. You
That's
know,
a whole bag of trouble.
You know, and you know the reason why. And if you know your wife, then you're not going to do it because you understand. You're empathizing with, you know, your wife, because you won't do that certain thing. And it's the same thing working with people. If I'm going to go out and hurt somebody, imagine that was someone in my family. Actually, I don't want to do this. I don't need to carry this knife. I don't need to do this. I don't need to be in this gang. And I don't need to exploit this person. And I think that's what we're going so far away from. We're going away from community. We've gone away from community, and it's all about self-preservation, because that's what happens in inner cities. And this is the problem. Like, you go outside of London, it's a lot different.
It's a completely different ballgame.
You know? Even though the problems are spreading, but this phenomenon is kind of very, very restricted to cities and urban areas. And you go anywhere in the world, the cities are not designed to keep people together. It's about yourself. It's about getting what you can.
It's pretty much survival, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about so working towards
jungle,
that's it. And it is essentially that. And that is a major issue. But you know, that's why it's important to detach and do the things that you enjoy. Read, you know, work out, whatever it may be, because that's your time. Meditate, all that stuff. You need to do that stuff, because we weren't designed to be in these spaces. You know, we are best when we're out and we're free.
That's definitely.
You know, and that's when your mind is free. And that's why, going back to the traveling, why I think that a lot of people that travel end up then taking a lot more risks in life.
Definitely.
Because they would do that, you know, traveling. Like, oh, you know what? I was in a favela in Brazil, just walking through. It was really cool. People were like, what?
It was casual. Like, it was kids running around big guns, but it was casual.
It was all good, man. They thought I was one of them. No problem. So I think that, again, it's about taking those calculated risks based on, you know, pushing those boundaries again and, you know, taking that leap. So I think that's really, really important.
Oh, that's amazing. So my parents, they run a radio station, and when the whole knife crime epidemic kicked off, they had 2 radio shows, and I came on as a guest as a guest speaker, and we had an interesting caller actually, and this caller said that the current generation that's engulfed in all this beef and stuff that's happening, we should write them off. They're a complete write-off. So that's what the person said. They go, the only way this issue can be resolved is if we start dealing with it internally as a community from now, taking the younger ones who are yet to get involved in the whole beef. But I thought it was harsh on one end, but then I could see where the individual was coming from, because how do we go about changing the mind state of people who are deeply involved, people who have had losses and are now trying to sort of rectify those by taking revenge on their supposed enemies and stuff? Like, how do we deal with those individuals, because they deep in it, and it's a psychological thing, it's a mental thing, it's a physical thing. They're going through so much.
I mean, you can't I'll be honest, you can't change people that don't want to be changed, and that's the first rule of our work. If a young person doesn't engage in the whole process, then it's pointless. Like, we'll say to a school, like, this young person's not interested, they're not engaging, we're going to leave it for now and revisit it later. The thing is, I agree, there's certain people that you just have to write off. You know, there's certain young people, unfortunately, I've spoken to them for years. I'm talking 8, 9 years.
Wow.
I've known them a long time. I've coached them at football. I've worked at their schools. I see them in the community. I know their parents.
Yeah.
And anytime I see them, I talk to them. What's going on with you now? Were you kicking ball? You're not kicking ball? What are you up to now? Oh, yeah, I see you on the street last night, about 2 o'clock. Oh, really? Yeah, okay, that wasn't me. Yeah, it was you. Yeah, it was you. And it's just literally, when people don't want to be changed, like, it's not going to happen. Again, it comes from within. If you decide you want to make a change, then you make that apparent to people, then people are going to assist you with that change that you're making. And it has to come from within. So, yes, to a certain degree, you have to write off some people because that's wasted energy. That energy you're putting into that person, you could put half of that energy into another person
and you
and
make
they
a
make
complete
those
change.
changes.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about, you know, being honest with yourself and saying, right, can I help this person? Are they helping themselves? No? Okay, let me revisit it. There are some that you know if you're consistent, you're going to keep knocking that door. That door's going to open one day. And there's a lot of those young people. There's certain times I leave young people and I've had a meeting. I'm like, this guy just doesn't
frustrating.
Literally, going, I'm going to go to the gym tonight. And literally. And, you know, you talk about saying yourselves, but like, what's wrong with this kid? And, you know, and you take it home because you want the best for them. You can see their path because of the experience we have in this field. And you don't want them to go there because you know they're not about this life.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, a lot of these young people, as I said, they just want to be seen to be a part of it. Yeah, I know this guy. Yeah, I know that guy. Yeah, he follows me on Instagram.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I've got about 8,000 followers. How many of those followers do you actually know, though?
How many of them actually care about
Right,
you?
exactly.
Yeah.
And that is it. But, you know, young people just want to be accepted. And that is the key thing. But, you know, we want to accept people and work with young people that want to make the change.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to make the change and they're too far gone, unfortunately, it's going to be a wake-up call, but we can't help you with that.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying, but the dangers in that is those that we do write off, they're the ones that will end up causing harm to the kids that you're trying to sort of then.
To a certain degree, because if what you're doing is working with the kids as a preventative measure, then it won't be in that situation.
Okay.
So if you understand, so it's about picking your battles. You know, I'm not saying I give up on young people, but there's some young people that you just know. You know, unfortunately, Incognito, who was part of the Moscow 17, I've known him, you know, for a long time. You know,
was he recently stabbed, wasn't he?
He was killed. On the Brandon estate. Less than 3 months after Raheem. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that unfortunately he made certain decisions in his life, and he was a great kid, very intelligent, very articulate. I came across him after, you know, not seen him for years, and it was nothing but love and respect. Yeah. Then I found out about, you know, kind of things that he was involved in, and I was like, I can't even believe that, you know, I didn't know this stuff before, so I couldn't challenge him. Yeah. And unfortunately he's gone now, but there just comes a point where people have just gone past the point of no return, and once you realise that, it's dangerous to continue.
But living within that community, so when the other kids see what's happened to their friends, how do they react? Because I know there's one hand the individuals who react angrily and wanting to take revenge, but what's the majority of the consensus around?
To be honest, they're so caught up in it that you know, the RIP, blah blah, and then they keep it moving. It's like it doesn't mean
desensitized
anything.
to the whole thing.
Yeah, it is. Like even, but you know, one of the children was like, "Yeah, I saw you in the documentary, and I saw Raheem's body. I wanted to see his face."
Serious.
I'm like, "You're 11. Why did you want to see his face?"
Yeah.
And again, it's because you know, as I said before, the fantasy reality, like they can't make a clear partition between them. They can't, you know, they're playing these games, Fortnite, all this stuff. They're shooting, they're killing, seeing this graphic stuff. They go on YouTube, they can see people dying and things like that. It's become normal.
Nothing.
So it's just like, all right, we accept it. And again, their developing minds are dealing with it in such a different way than an adult would. And it puts them into a false sense of reality, I believe. And, you know, it's very tough for them. It is very tough. It's a fine balance. But again, you have to pick your battles. You have to know that, you know what, this kid's responding to me just a little bit. Yeah. By turning up here, that's
you know that he's on it. Yeah.
But if you're consistently asking a child, come, I've got a trial for you at this football club, or I've got this, and they just don't engage, and you're trying to work with them, you're trying to do whatever you can. Yeah. Unfortunately, like it's just,
it comes a point where your energy is best served elsewhere, which is It's the harsh reality of it all.
Yeah, and it is heartbreaking sometimes because you feel like, you know, when things happen to young people that are very close to myself, you know, like Raheem, you know, I always feel like I could have done more.
Yeah.
But then people look at it and, you know, that know the situation, that says you did all you could. Like, what else could you have done? And unfortunately for him, it's that the change that he was making in his life was just far too late. He made a lot of decisions. He made a lot of wrong decisions. He made some good decisions too. But, you know, that came back to haunt him. And, you know, I'm dealing with that. I'm still very close to his mum and trying to help her through that, and his little sister. And, you know, people don't really see the fallout from it and understand, you know, and that's why the documentary was really good, because it showed the other side. It didn't glamorize it. And that was the only reason I agreed to be a part of it, because I wanted to tell his story, and we wanted to tell it in more depth, but we'll do that through our own channels now. But yeah, he wasn't a saint. He didn't, to my knowledge, hurt anybody, and I wasn't aware of that. And he had a good heart, and when he was with me, nothing but respect. You know, we built up such a good relationship that, you know, he was going to start working with Mentivity. He was working with us at our football club. He wanted to be an architect, so he would just finish getting his CSCS card. Then he was going to go into an apprenticeship, and we'd taken him down to one of the parents that works whose son plays for our team. He's got an architecture firm, so we took him down there with two other boys, and literally saw him just like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah,
because he saw.
That's when the eyes open to the world, doesn't it?
He saw the budgets and all this stuff, and that's why he was like, yeah. We came up from Jamaica. He was like, Sayce, this is what I'm doing. I'm not rolling with these guys. They're snakes. I'm realizing now, and I'm causing myself a lot of problems. I just want to roll with you, Tyson, and Leon, and just start working, and, you know, just make these strides in my life. And, you know, now that he's gone, like, for me, I don't want anyone to ever forget who he was and who he was trying to be. And that is, you know, massively important to me, because he showcased so many traits that I identified with. You know, his birthday was 6 days before mine. Like, he's a Scorpio as well, very defiant. He just reminded me of me as that child at that age. And when I met him at 8, you know, he was literally me. Like, he had no fear. I never had any fear. Like, I would do things if I wanted to do it, like, without fear. And I wanted to harness that, and I don't think he knew how powerful he could have been, and how influential and how successful he could have been in so many different ways. Even with the music, he had a talent for that, but he was in the wrong area. And I wanted to challenge him and say to him, right, let's talk about it more positively. Let's talk about the negative situation, but in a more positive manner, which brings light to the situation. And, you know, that's what I was trying to do with him. But there's limited time.
Do you think the music is playing? Well, before I get into the music, you did touch on one part when you took Raheem to an architecture firm, and his eyes opened up to what could possibly be. I think a lot of people within our community are not doing enough of that, and that's what we need to be doing a lot more. People like yourself, people like me, and people are out there that are actually actively doing stuff and are involved in the world and are seeing opportunities. We need to open up the eyes of the younger ones who are not sort of exposed to those opportunities, because sometimes they don't even know it exists. Like, they hear all these various, like, vocations and different skill sets and jobs, but they don't actually know what they look like tangibly. They can't actually picture it. So it's about going back into the community and showcasing that, look, besides what you're seeing here locally, this is what's out there in the world. These are some of the opportunities that are out there for you. You say you want to be an architect, but you know what an architecture firm looks like. You know what I mean? Do you know what the job actually entails?
Do you know the steps to take to get there?
Do you know the steps it takes to get there? And that's what we need to be doing more of.
It's creating that visual pathway. It's saying, right, this is where you are now, at the end of the spectrum, at the beginning of the spectrum, should I say. And these are the journey. These are the points that you need to go past. And you may have to take a detour and go around, or take a step back.
You're going to take a few hits and bumps along the way.
So once they see that, and they're like, right, this is actually possible. If I successful at this stage, then the next stage, and the next stage, and that is what is key. And, you know, creating that kind of visual pathway so they can actually feel like it's tangible and that it's achievable. And as you said, not a lot of people are doing that in the community, because I didn't know what it was going to take to be a professional football player. I just realised that quickly that I needed to work hard. And everything was geared towards that, you know. And then when I went, you know, my coaching, I wanted to be the best coach I could be. So it was about going on as many courses as I could when I was at Southwark, and learning from other coaches and putting myself consistently outside my comfort zone. So, you know, I'm a competent coach now where I can coach any sport. You know, it's not about what I coach. You know, I know how to coach. So I know the coaching formulas, and it works for me. So once you give these young people these tools and equip them, then they're gonna be able to flourish.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we need to really reiterate as well is like delayed gratification, because a lot of young people, they feel like they want everything now. Like they want to be successful now. Like, what do you know about running a household at the age of 18, but they want to buy mansions? They talk about mansions, fast cars, and living all this lifestyle. They need to understand that sometimes like the work that goes into it, it takes a while in order for you to see the fruits of your labor. So you need to delay that gratification. That everything that you're seeing in the media and everything you're seeing on social media and so forth is what you said was microwave society. And sometimes you need to put in that work to really get to that position you need to get to, and it's not going to happen overnight. So delayed gratification is like one thing that I think is key that we need to really push into these young people. It's like, you're only 18, bro, chill. Like, do you know what a mansion is? Do you even know what a mortgage is, let alone 1 in 10 mansions at the age of 18? It just doesn't work like that.
It's like, you know, working with some young people that are find it difficult in education, and they do one task, like, I've done it. I'm like, okay, great. What's next? Like, what do you want? You want a medal? Like, this is what you should be doing. This is what you should be doing, and it's very, very important to let them know that, you know. And for me, we say to the young people, all good things take time.
Most definitely.
All good things take time.
That's really important to push,
And, you know, and unless they understand that from early, you know, and another one of our sayings is invest in yourself and you will be paid. Not, you know, in financial terms, but through success. That will come later. Like, all the times when I was young, I focused on money, I never got money. I never acquired that money.
I completely understand that.
When I didn't focus on it, and which I'm don't do now, I'm living okay. Like, I'm not, you know, got a big massive house. I don't own a house yet, or whatever it may be, but that's the next step for me. You know, I'm 35 and I've got to the point where money's not the be all and end all, which it always was, because I didn't have it. Now I'm like,
always tell people, focus on like delivering a service. Focus on doing stuff, like focus on the actual process instead of the money, because when you focus on the money, you're never going to get there, and your mind is always going to be swayed and always going to be moved, and you're going to get easily demoralized by whatever you're doing, because you're focusing on the money, but not on the actual service, and then the pressure is crazy. But before we cut this podcast, can you tell me some of the work that's coming up in terms of Mentivity? What you got coming up, and what is it that you want the people to know in regards to the work that you're doing and the work you're coming to do?
So, I mean, in terms of Mentivity, we're just really going through a major period of expansion at the moment. So we have set up a community interest company, which will then kind of help what we're doing with Mentivity. So that we set up in Raheem's name, pretty much.
Amazing.
So Raheem's full name was Raheem Ainsworth Barton. So we've set up the CIC, the community interest company, called Reaching Above Boundaries. So that's going to be a logo, which is one of the pictures of him, which, you know, that will be soon. So then we can start drawing in money from you know, the government and other funding streams to be able to supplement the work that we're doing with Mentivity. So that's the major development. So we're focusing on that at the moment, and then it's just securing, you know, formalized partnerships with some of our other schools and academy groups. So that's what we're really trying to do at the moment, and, you know, we're acquiring more staff. We've got another 2 members of staff starting in the next couple of weeks. By the end of the year, I believe we'll be up to about 15 members of staff, probably about 20 schools. And again, we are planning to do a schools tour in conjunction with Mandem on the Wall of Comedy. So we're just having discussions about that. That will be next year. We're also formalising a partnership with Goldman Sachs in terms of our their Goldman Sachs Gives kind of community teamworks program. So we delivered one at Wharf Academy in June of this year, and it was a major success.
Oh, that's good stuff.
The Goldman Sachs staff that were there, you know, a lot of them were predominantly American and, you know, Black, African, Caribbean, and they were just like, this is the best one we've ever done, you know, like we really enjoyed themselves. So we've signed up to do at least 4 of those per year with Goldman Sachs. And in terms of, as I said, acquiring funding, is again solidifying what we're doing to make sure that we're here for years to come, and that we, you know, get the school in the next couple of years. The plan is to expand Mentivity over the next 18 months to, you know, other countries. Once we're nearly London wide. We're in South London, we're in East London, we're in North, but we're not in West yet. So West is
need to hit up West as well.
So we'll get West, but we'll get there soon. But nothing before it's time. So we're just working really, really hard to keep progressing, to bring this service to more people. I'm just trying to grow this, you know, family of mentors and, you know, people that are working towards to help young people to just go forwards. And that's my main passion. And, you know, I believe that this can be replicated in the States.
Yeah.
So when I'm in New York, I'm going to be doing a bit of research out there. Again, going to Africa, the Caribbean, you know, we had discussions with someone about doing the same thing in Jamaica. So we're just really trying to expand and get this whole concept out there, and, you know, get, you know, Mentivity, this philosophy, and approach the young people, and giving them a chance and hope in society, and giving them the tools to succeed. So that's where we're trying to go, and we will get there.
Amazing.
For sure. And yeah, I've got a fantastic team of people, you know, working, you know, diligently every day, and you know, going above and beyond, and that's what it's about. And yeah, I feel that we've already created quite a legacy, but we want this to be a legacy for years to come, that people can be like, you know, Mentivity kind of changed the way that we educated our
it's
young
the impact
people.
they had in the society and the community and so forth.
So a lot of developments, and there'll be a lot more things. There's a few more kind of press things coming up for me, like so I'm just trying to really promote Mentivity and get us out there and try and help kind of reduce this level of violence within our communities and bridge those gaps where we need to. So that's what's on the agenda for Mentivity at the moment.
Well, Sayce, you're actually a true inspiration, man. I mean, this I'm not even being funny there. This is the first time meeting you, and obviously hearing about the good work you're doing within the community and stuff. So I'm definitely going to be an advocate for your work, and I'm going to push it wherever I do go. And if there's any contacts that I have along the way, I'll definitely be forwarding your way. And I'd love to have you on another time as well, and we'll be discussing other things going into sort of like the music side of things, and just generally having a chit chat. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you on as part of like your introduction to LetsDoHumans. It was more than an introduction. It ended up going for longer than I expected, but it's been truly it's the content's extremely valuable, and it's conversations that we need to be having as a community, especially amongst ourselves as young men within that community. We need to be progressively pushing out positive content and having these positive discussions and conversations in order to better ourselves and our people. So it's been an absolute pleasure. So Sayce, it's been a blessing.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate that. No, that was amazing, man.